How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com with your favorite show host, Aristill.
Fenarian.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can most conveniently find us on our Discord channel, which is most easily accessed by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on our show logo on any of our recent show posts, which should take you straight to our Discord chat, where you can chat with us, the show hosts, with the other listeners of the show, and basically post whatever crap you feel like.
All 2.5 of them.
Well, there's like 2.5 that post regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love you guys.
For some reason, there are plenty of people who have been in the channel and who just sort of apparently just lurk. But if you want to come and liven things up, by all means.
Or lurk, I guess, because that's what all the cool kids are doing.
We have a pretty big lurker list. So yeah, instead of given our history with it, we figured we should address the elephant in the room this week at the start of the show and right off the bat to get it acknowledged and out there instead of doing it as a proper segment.
Mm-hmm.
This week, Total Biscuit John Bain passed away from cancer, and yeah. That's sad.
Very sad.
He fought it tooth and nail for a long time, but eventually his liver couldn't keep up with the sort of things that were required to treat it any longer, and his body just sort of started shutting down.
Yeah.
It wasn't super sudden, but so
everybody was braced for it to happen, but nobody expected it to happen so suddenly and so soon.
Yeah, it kind of caught us all a little off guard. We thought it longer, but yeah, that news came out of nowhere and hit a lot of us a little hard. Regardless of personal opinions on his beliefs or anything, I have a lot of respect for TB as a person, and especially given the history of what he's done for this meta community between WC Radio and its splinter stations.
Yep.
So
he more or less got the whole thing up and running.
The boy had a work ethic and an ability to gather people I couldn't even hope to emulate in my peak.
Yep. So yeah, honestly, if it hadn't been for Total Biscuit and WoW Radio, we wouldn't be doing this show.
We wouldn't know each other. It's very likely there would be no VTW.
You are lagging horrendously, sir.
Like, we can't even hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm just going to shoot Steam entirely in the face in case it's trying to do something terrible.
Yeah, it probably is. So anyway, definitely our thoughts are with his family and friends. And
he's survived by his family, his wife, his stepson. There is, I believe, a GoFundMe which has been going to help support his family while they, get back up on their feet, sort of thing. I don't have an address for it, but I'll see if I can find one.
I'm googling it.
Yeah, okay. We'll throw it up into the show chat.
Yeah, if you want to contribute to that.
It's about at 160,000 now in one day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going pretty darn fast.
It is, and it's good to see. And there's there's people out there posting really.
How many people who were affected by him?
Yeah. There's people out there who are posting really negative and horrible things, but ignore those people. They're really not worth it.
It's not worth even discussing them, honestly.
No,
just let
they don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it.
No.
They clearly live lives small enough that they can't appreciate these sorts of things and the weight of them. So yeah, they can go and do that in their little corner, and civilized people mourn them properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's it. I've posted the GoFundMe in the live show chat on the Discord, which means you have to actually go in the Discord to get to it. But but it's there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, lots of respect for TB as a person. I'll remember him fondly for the days of Ask the Murloc and Blue Please. So,
oh yeah.
So yeah,
he basically made what we do a profession. I think that he's actually had a really outsized influence on content production as a whole that you can't necessarily see from direct connections.
Mm-hmm.
But he was one of the first people to really turn the hobby into the career.
Yes, he was.
So yeah. I don't really have much more to say on it.
I don't. It's sad and yeah.
Yeah, we felt it appropriate to at least make mention of it and remember him in some way on the show
because he's part of our heritage in a sense. Like he built what we built on.
Yeah,
he's one of the giants on whose shoulders we stand.
Yes,
indeed.
All right. So with that out of the way, I guess on the stream today I'm playing a bit of Pixel Piracy. So it's a game who's done by the same guys who did Starbound Relogic. And because I'm the most highbrow person around, I am going to be setting sail on the adventures of Captain Butt, the pirate.
What?
Why not? I just got to find a look that actually appeals, because unfortunately this game is quite ugly. It's pixel art, and the pixel art itself of the world wouldn't be so bad, but by default it's layered and slathered in bloom and filters and I've turned most of them off. There we go, that'll do. That's appropriately easy.
That's cruise control for art.
I know, right? At least has
you need to have as much
effects.
bloom as possible.
Just if they can't see it, they can't judge it as bad.
That's right. You can't see, what is ugly and cannot be seen doesn't count. Oh boy.
It's okay. As foreshadowing, it's more highbrow than one of the things we're doing this week.
Yeah, everything's going to be a bit highbrow this week.
Compared to that, foreshadowing, we'll get to that later.
So yes. As for my week, what did I do? Not a whole lot, admittedly. I sat down and spent a lot of time grinding through London in Fate Grand Order, which is a very strange chapter.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, I thought I turned the sound off on this game. Yeah, so the whole story is London is covered in a fog, and because this is, Industrial Revolution London, that's not overly unusual, except this fog seems to be killing people a lot faster than it used to. Something happens, there's monsters, and then all of a sudden, authors show up.
Yes.
Yes.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah, Hans Christian Andersen and William Shakespeare, who are incredibly verbose, let's just say. And almost completely useless in the grand scheme of things.
They basically provide sort of like color commentary, like the two old guys in the Muppets.
Yeah, not quite as heckly, but actually equally as useless.
I don't know. I think they're pretty close.
Yeah, I found for the second half,
Hans doesn't hesitate to make his opinion of everything you do and say and think clear.
Yeah, he's just all snark. So yeah, thankfully in the second half of the story, they seem to be locked in a room, which everybody else is loath to enter. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing in there. I'm probably happier without that. But as far as the combat, the enemies go, it's pretty much all robots because reasons. But yeah, finish this chapter up, and I will be up to E Pluribus Unum, which is Merca.
America. I've made a little bit of progress in E Pluribus Unum. I haven't had much time, but it's quite absurd.
Yes.
It really is. It's ridiculous.
I'm expecting rather a lot of silliness. Like, Ocanus was incredibly silly as a chapter. It went serious for a few moments, and then, Jason showed up and just completely demolished any sense of urgency of the story by being completely useless as a bad guy.
Well, he's that's sort of like his thing, though, right? Jason and his Argonauts from Legend in the Type Moon setting is not a hero per se, the way he's traditionally imagined. He's a person who is good at convincing other people to do what he wants.
Mm.
And so he builds groups of heroes around himself and basically is lit by their reflected glory, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's okay. That story ended up fairly satisfactory, although admittedly the boss at the end of it had stupid amounts of health, as they do. Ugh.
And it also had Teach.
Teach. Teach is just creepy and weird the entire way through, and it's can we not Teach? He took an awful long time to die.
Yes, he did.
Yes. So, to the point where you had characters standing around and telling him, just shut up and die already. So yeah, that's a bit of Fate Grand End Order. And what else have I actually done this week? Not too much. Still chipping away at Digimon World New Order. It's starting to make a little bit of sense, I guess. The story's actually started now. Sort of.
Hey Digimon. Monster friends to the boys and girls.
Wow,
Champions of the digital world.
That's an old one.
It's what Ari blasts on the stereo.
Yes,
it is.
In response to douchemobiles.
It is a wonderful weapon.
Yes.
That terrible, terrible soundtrack. If you have not subjected yourself to the Digimon soundtrack at some point in your life.
Don't. No.
You don't know what terrible is. Your barometer is not set right.
Oh boy. This game just does not want to behave itself. Why is it? Nah, anyway. My captain is in the tavern. Why? Why are you not recognizing it? Screw it. Skip. Okay. Yeah. So, I've found the story. And by found the story, I mean I've wandered into an area that was previously very hostile and found some humans in there. Also Veemon. But, yeah, nobody cares about Veemon.
Gen 2.
Nobody remembers Gen 2.
Nobody likes Adventure 2.
Yeah.
Even the writers don't like it.
No.
Is that the one which had, like, the Digimon Emperor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Yes.
The Digimon Emperor too. Think about that. Like, yeah, that one had half the writing team just get up and walk out due to executive meddling halfway through.
Yeah.
And it had that horrible epilogue as well.
Yeah, the epilogue that's been retconned out of existence.
Yeah.
by Tri.
Everything. Yeah. Tri was good. Tri's really good. But
Tri is
what is
really
actually rather jarring
is
what is actually rather jarring is you deal with Veemon. He's a minor character at best. But then you find these other humans, and one of them has a Guilmon. Now, who remembers Guilmon's voice? Yeah.
Takatorman?
Takatorman. Yeah, that.
Takatorman. Can I have some bread, Takatorman?
Not in this case. This Guilmon is incredibly deep-voiced, and it is rather off-putting.
He eventually becomes Gallantmon, or
he does.
Gallantmon, or whatever.
So put Gallantmon voice on Guilmon.
Yeah, they do that in Japan sometimes. He always has the deep voice.
Yeah. Instead of the English with the stupid Muppety voice.
I think Chris Sabat's Takatorman was actually really appropriate for the character, and I loved it.
It was. I had to admit.
It wasn't he like a fan creation or something, like in universe?
Yeah, he was an OC that Takato drew and stuck it in his Digivice, and his Digivice scanned it when he thought he broke it because he thought he was messing around with it, and it actually scanned it and made a Digimon.
Yeah.
And so it has Guilmon's story arc is he has all these OC like Mary Sue characteristics, and they come back to bite Takato in the butt, like giving him Megiddo superpowers actually makes him a huge danger when that power goes out of control because it can destroy the digital world.
Which it does a couple of times.
Well, in other franchises it does, but Takato manages to go, oh, what have I done, and fix it.
Yeah, it's Skull Greymon all over again.
Well, it's worse than Skull Greymon.
Skull Greymon only tried to destroy a city.
Yeah,
Merisu OCs, don't do it, kids.
Yep.
Yeah, bad for everybody. It almost ends the digital world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun deconstruction of it. But I really like the way they handled the OC nature of Guilmon. It's just like, all of this is a terrible idea. There are consequences for having this much power on a creature.
Yep. So yeah, this Guilmon just seems to be, regular, inline, incredibly deep-voiced Guilmon.
The Royal Knight Guilmon.
Yeah.
That becomes Gallantmon eventually.
Yeah. Alright, so that's really that for that game. That's honestly all about I've done for this week. Oh, right, the Steam event. That's the other thing I've been fiddling with.
I didn't even know there was one on until you told me.
I didn't either.
Yeah. I was actually honestly expecting when I logged in the other day to see, Steam sale because it's that time of year. No. This is Steam actively encouraging people not to buy games, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, I gotta say I don't really understand.
Yeah. Oh boy. The whole idea is basically going back through your backlog, playing some old games, and getting you some achievements for it. As well as...
And by playing...
Well, by playing...
install the game and close it.
Yeah, install the game, open it, close it, uninstall it. Done. Which is what I did to some games I really don't want to look at again. Because they're not very good. But, yeah, you get achievements for it, and, Steam badges and the usual nonsense. As well as...
garbage.
Yeah. As well as a mystery item, which is supposedly going to be used in some sort of sale in the future.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That just screams, just you wait to see how underwhelming this is.
This is going to be a coupon for a terrible game that nobody wants to buy.
Yeah. Hey, Steam Bloom's been still doing Guilmon as of 2015. So
Nice.
There's still stuck out there, man.
Huh. Where is he on this one?
He was in All-Star Rumble in 2015.
Huh. Okay.
As all the Guilmon line.
So he can do the deep voice?
No.
No.
Gallantmon's voice is... in English, when Gallantmon's created, he created in the story of an overlay between two characters. And so they play their voices simultaneously at the same time in the English dub, instead of using the deep voice like they did in Japan.
So, yeah. Anyway, so that's been my real week, is sitting down and poking at various terrible games. Because it gives you some suggestions for this event. And it's been mostly a matter of, figure out which game is going to be installed the quickest. Ugh.
I got hung up until the smallest option was Borderlands 2, and that's where I gave up.
Yeah. This Borderlands 2 is a decent game.
Yeah, if you just play it and don't pay attention to anything else.
Yeah.
It wasn't so bad when it came out. Now it's pretty dang bad.
I still haven't played the pre-sequel, and I'm not feeling like I'm particularly missing anything there.
Yeah, I as far as I'm concerned, that series is pretty much over. The peak of the writing is in like the Telltale game. That's pretty much it.
After playing that Telltale game and really seeing what that stories that universe can tell, the base games are just kind of
Yeah.
You're not missing much with the pre-sequel. The gravity mechanic is terrible. As far as gameplay peaked, it was at Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
So you're fine stopping there.
Like I go back and play that once in a while because I think it's a really solid game in most respects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do not like playing people though.
Say again?
I don't like playing Borderlands with people though.
I think that you can play Borderlands with people. It's just that you have to play basically a different game.
Yeah. There's a very set pace you can get into in that type of game when you're playing single player. And if you're in multiplayer, that pace ain't happening.
No. Everything's going to be mile a minute, run and gun, shooty bang.
If
Well, either
everybody
somebody-
involved was totally sloshed, then you might be able to do it.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That's true for pretty much everything.
The difficulty is going to be raised, but they're not going to be hitting anything.
Are you
Dang
eating?
it.
Maybe.
Professionalism.
We are it.
Totally.
We are professionalism itself.
Try and squeeze in
Manifesting.
lunch around the show and work. Alright, so what else? Animus! Oh boy. I think I might actually drop Magical Girl Ore. I'm not entirely sure what's going on at this point anymore.
I think that's a wise decision.
Yeah, I think it's just driving to madness at this point.
There's only so much of big muscly men in broken frilly skirts you can take.
Yeah.
I haven't watched any of them, and I'm really in two minds about whether I want to.
It's incredibly silly, but the story doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. It's just like, here's some more shenanigans and possibly gay overtones and weird stuff going on.
Is it gay if the characters are girls when untransformed, or is that lesbians?
There's also that. There's love
I think it's
triangles.
both.
There's
I
love
think it's
squares.
both at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, love triangles, love dodecahedrons, one love Ouroboros. Go figure that one out.
It goes in a circle forever?
They love themselves.
Yes.
Way too much. This ship is
Or
covered in
both. Ouroboroses go in circles.
Yes.
Eat their tails.
Yes, they
That's
do.
correct.
I'm just
So-
making an asinine comment to get us off that.
So, I'm going to drop that one. Because I think it's just... I like weirdness and silliness and confusion, but yeah.
Well, it's like something that I often say when I do the anime review show. If a show is like supposed to be funny, and it's not a very good comedy, I often say, well, the problem with the show is that it only has one joke, and it does it over and over.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out who's downloading something and bop them on the head.
Find out exactly what is going on with your terrible internet, sir.
Somebody is downloading something, so I will return shortly, folks.
Oh boy. So, I'm going to say that's about it for my week. It's not been a very eventful week.
Well,
It's
I'm not sure that I can really improve on that.
No, it's probably not going to be a very big show, this one.
No. So, what did I do this week? Again, not much. I like the week previous. I sat down and I thought very carefully about whether I wanted to play Diablo. And after wrestling with it, I decided not to because it's not good.
No.
And I don't know why I keep confronting this, but it seems to just keep happening.
Because there's a semblance of what could have been a functional game that might have once been a functional game there, but all the post patches have broken it.
The lesson which goes take your cues from Diablo 2 should not end up being, duplicate Diablo 2 in a slightly different engine, except without any of the charm, without any of the challenge.
Also prettier.
But Volacel, the snow level's Act 3 and the swamp level's Act 5 this time.
Huge difference. Huge difference.
And you go to heaven instead of hell this time.
Well,
Oh boy.
at any rate,
In Act 4.
so I didn't play any of that because I couldn't bring myself to, and I still haven't ruled out playing more of it, but it just doesn't really seem that credible. So I don't really know what I've been doing with my time. I've kept playing Monster Hunter because it goes on and on. Basically, I can play it as much as I want and not run out of stuff to do. So that's been a lot of my time. As I mentioned, I'm making progress on E Pluribus Unum at last. Fern and I decided that it was too boring to never, ever roll on the gacha, except during like 2 events a year.
Oh
So
boy, why
I
did we do this?
So I decided that what I would do was I would just blow a ticket on each new banner that came up,
Mm-hmm.
even if I was like only moderately interested in it, because the idea is that there's a chance that something interesting might happen, and if I never roll, then I'm never going to get any chances. So I might as well just throw one away, considering tickets are free basically.
Yeah.
And it's not like Quartz. There's no additional advantage to saving them up, so that you can spend them all at once. So I decided to blow a ticket on each of the banners that was currently up, and I got Cuchulainn twice, which is bad because I have 5 of him already.
Yeah, that's
Is he a 3 or a 4?
3.
3. That's for regular garden variety Cuchulainn.
Yep.
But
Is the current banner any good?
Huh? Say again?
Is the current banner any good?
yeah,
Well, there were 2 banners at the time. There was one for Kentoki, who is probably the best 5-star berserker proportional to his complexity, in the sense that he's like the simplest one to use. You use Buster forever, and you'll do a ton of damage. That's just who he is.
yeah.
If the current one is Suiton Doji, and that's it.
Shuten Doji is a very difficult servant to use well, I would say. She's very debuff heavy. She's the first decent AoE assassin. You don't generally want AoE for story clearing and challenges, because it's difficult to clear really strong things with AoE, since AoE damage is generally quite low. But she's got her uses. She's just hard to use, and most people view her as the Lolicon bait servant. Although watching sort of like the fandom's reaction to her has been sort of weird, and it's sort of like this is sort of like the weird property of Lolicon character design, is that very like there's sort of like 2 classes of it, right? There's the sort of the really cringy class, which is where the Ellens and that come in.
Yeah.
Which is like they're drawn as children, basically.
Need an adult.
Yeah. So you need an adult. Then there's a kind which Shuten Doji is drawn as, which is basically a rather flat-chested adult drawn under scale.
Yeah.
So like, because the thing is, the sort of the meme thing to say about Shuten Doji, from what I've seen, isn't your classic lecherous Lolicon comments. It's usually something along the lines of "dim childbearing hips."
Ugh.
How can you
Because,
tell?
like I said, they're underscale adults as opposed to drawn as children. So sort of a weird design quirk therein. But yeah, but basically it's a fan service character. Period. End. She's not a standout servant strategically along any particular strategy that I can think of. Like, there's no reason why she would be integral to a particular team that a person wanted to make. She's just kind of weird in terms of her skills and stuff. But yeah, she's got fans though, and they will wail regardless.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is gacha, so wailing occurs. Yeah, so I didn't get anything. Fern decided to foolishly follow me into the breach, and I don't think he got anything either.
No, I really should not have done that. I think I ended up getting something like, oh, good grief, what was it? It was so terrible I can't even remember it.
Yeah, you got Self-Gears.
Yes, I got Self-Gears, which is, awful.
A really, 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 really bad craft essence.
Yep. And a 3-star hero, who was it? Hang on, I will quickly consult. It wasn't anything good, though.
It was Darius.
It was
I bet
Darius. That's right. It was Darius.
It was Darius.
Yes. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
That's what happened to me when I had my big when I did my big spend of Saint Quartz during the Jean Alta banner. Is I just got like copy after copy of Darius. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Oh, well, we'll see what the next banner brings up. Hopefully, something not awful.
Yep. Journey to the West is coming up. Looking forward to that. Currently trying to raise some snakes for it. I've got
When y'all say snakes, is that like snakes or
Team Snake?
Yeah, it's the Team Snake traditionally is a team which has like as many of the characters as possible, filled by variants of Euryales, Theno, and Medusa.
Oh, that's what you mean by Team Snake.
And you can sort of tangentially you could add Kirihime in there if you don't have a berserker to fill a slot because she turns into a snake.
She is also Snake.
But the reality is the reason that this is of note is because they give bonus drops in the next event. So having as many of them in your lineup as possible in a mission which will drop stuff that they give bonuses to will be advantageous for your farming. So yeah. But having things in your lineup that are useless is just a burden. So if they're leveled enough to at least contribute, that's helpful.
Yeah.
I will join your stupid one-off banner party and do. I have enough quartz laying around. Why not? I'm not looking forward to anything. I'll just do a times 10 summon.
Okay, I wouldn't blow quartz on it, but if you got tickets,
we didn't blow quartz on it. We blew tickets on it because tickets are easy.
Oh, I got a 5-star craft essence. A Fox's Dream.
I think that's one of the event ones.
It's one of the event ones. It's for a Showmon, but it's actually most of the 5-star ones aren't bad. They're mostly pretty good. Mostly.
There are exceptions.
20% double phantasm gains and 3 crest or sea stars each turn.
Yes, that's the really good one.
It's good amongst event craft essences, but it's not like top tier because it's playing against itself in anything but particular team comps because crit stars don't affect your noble phantasm. They help you build it faster, but generally speaking, a noble phantasm focused comp will already have methods of doing that, and you aren't really improving things by a great deal by just adding 20%.
Yeah.
But getting more crit stars for free is always good. So if you aren't drowning in other things that do that, like his rightful place and whatnot, then it's probably good in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an event one with the rate up. That's the risk of rolling on the banner though, because the banners follow events around, and you might get an event CE, and event CEs are often like subpar, like very often.
They are not kaleidoscopes.
No,
they are certainly not kaleidoscopes
at all. But
everybody needs kaleidoscopes.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might do that simply because it gets boring waiting for the next event that you intend to spam Saint Quartz on. And it would be nice to have some perturbations in my lineup, even if they're not very good ones. I just wish it wasn't that have something that you've already got the maximum possible amount of. I guess you're going to turn them into mana prisms now.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating. Deeply frustrating, but no more frustrating than I expected.
The gacha is a malevolent force.
Yes, that's what it does. That's sort of its role in the universe. So yeah, I'm interested to see the new event when it comes out. Journey to the West. From all accounts, it looks pretty run of the mill. It's not anything particularly revolutionary, but they're bringing in Xuanshang or Sanzo, who is like the first really DPS centric caster, which is good because the closest thing in the game to that currently is probably the 3-star Medea, who's good but not great by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah. What else? I am presently playing Monster Hunter, and I'm presently providing a sort of mosquito level nuisance to Kulve Taroth. I actually don't really understand how this thing works, but Kulve Taroth does not seem to care a lick that I am here, other than to occasionally swat me with her tail.
She's too big and shiny to deign your presence.
Yeah. She is certainly blinged out.
Yes.
I don't really understand what I'm doing. I just sort of follow her through the level, picking things up and swatting at her tail until she leaves.
Yeah.
And then I do it again. I don't think I've managed to accomplish anything yet.
Yeah, at this point, you can really just follow her around and batter her ankles until eventually you've done it enough times to raise your research level.
Right.
Then you can batter her ankles and maybe break something.
Yeah, part breakability set to extremely low right now.
Yeah.
But, it's an interesting sort of event. You are supposed to do it with way more people than this, obviously. I'm just doing it by myself because I'm not focusing and I don't like playing with randoms. I could probably tolerate playing with randoms if I seriously wanted to make an attempt on this. But since I'm doing the show, I might
just play with randoms.
Yeah, I've done it before. Yeah, I've done it before with randoms, and once you get into phases 3 and 4, she develops some rather nasty attacks, which, if you're not careful, can potentially one-shot you. And yeah, okay.
And do fire damage.
And do fire damage. Yeah. They're
of course
big.
It does fire damage. Why wouldn't it do fire damage? Do you ever need to take the fire res necklace off? No. Never. For any reason.
The attacks are big and they're slow, but they hurt like a truck.
I've heard that elemental resistance is actually the one thing in the game that's easy to calculate because it's just a straight up percentage reduction.
Yeah. It's about the only thing that is. They overcomplicated a lot of things.
They dumbed a lot of stuff in that game. With readability at the very
least. With readability. Yeah. Nothing is straightforward. Everything is overly complicated. But that's loud.
Why are you doing this?
What are you doing?
You're the least professional person on earth.
My sound on my iPad suddenly turned on. I don't know why. I must have bumped. I don't know. I might have bumped the volume button. No, it's tapped away pretty deep in there. I don't know how it could have got bumped.
Suddenly noise. All of it.
It's just like boom, boom, boom.
Your lack of professionalism is so strong that it gave you telekinetic powers.
Of terrible.
I don't know how the sound turned on. That's worrying.
It's a mystery. The ghost did it.
Like, I guess it's not impossible. I could anyway.
All right. So Kulve Taroth is designed to be done, by 16 people working in tandem of groups of 4, not by just someone plodding around on their own.
But I like to play by myself.
I know. I often prefer it. But yeah.
So this morning on a whim I tried a Korean beat 'em up called Closers, which it looks like it has potential, but it's an absolute dog as far as accessibility is concerned. Like it's basically got all the diseases that MMOs that don't take a page out of WoW's book have, in the sense that they're basically incomprehensible and there's no manual.
Like, when the design team sits down, like, okay, we don't want to do WoW, but I got a cool idea for a system. I do too.
Have you been drinking? Yes.
They're usually competent systems that you like if you actually get into the game, but they don't explain them to you well enough.
No, they really don't.
At any rate, the game, it looks nice enough. It's got a simple mechanic as far as play is concerned. It's pretty standard sort of side scroller-ish beat 'em up type of thing, and so it's really I don't know. It's everything about it feels like they didn't quite bother to make sure it worked. Like, you playing it with keys is a pain in the butt. I tried to play it with keys because that's the default. They plugged in my controller. I tried to play it with the controller, but the controller my goodness, I could not coax it into working correctly. Like, it works some of the time, but it seemed like if I touched the stick, then the directional buttons would stop working, and you can't really use the stick. Even though the stick tries to convince you that it works, it doesn't actually work. It doesn't.
Yeah.
The whatever conversion algorithm it uses to convert analog stick position into whatchamacallit, combinations of, say, pressing right and down, it does not work properly. Like, it sometimes just stops entirely, just fails outright.
It is probably calibrated for a 360 controller, and it has the option to use a PS4 pad or whatever, but it ain't gonna like it. A lot of games are like that. They say you can use the DualShock 3 or 4, but it's not. The game's not set up for it, like, at all.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mess. At any rate, I would have liked for it to be good, so that I had something to derp about on. But that was one of its failings, was that the controls were a mess. Another one of its failings is the fact that it uses an energy system. Hooray, energy systems. No, I'm sick of that. Like, I have one game which uses an energy system, that's FGO, and it works because it's a mobile, and I don't really want to sit down and play it for lengths of time which are longer than my energy bar, on account of I'm not Aristeel. I didn't grind massively away from the story. So no thank you. It was just a whim for me to try it. Like, I didn't have any special investment in wanting it to be good, but I'm always disappointed if I try something and find out that it just does not work. Maybe if I was really, really patient with it, it would somehow be workable, but you know what? I just don't care enough. There's a certain amount of a certain extent to which a game must grab you the first time, and when it fails to do that, it's like with Aristeel and Final Fantasy XIV. Like, it is a great game. It's objectively a great MMO in my opinion, but it didn't grab him the first time, and none of the subsequent times have stuck.
Yep.
So yeah, and mainly the reason it didn't grab him the first time is because he did everything categorically wrong. But I mean, the fact that they let him do that was, you know, that's a failing on their part, and it's an accessibility issue. But yeah. What else did I do this week? I didn't watch anything particularly new in anime, other than I did briefly decide to delve into Legend of the Galactic Heroes, the reboot.
Yeah.
Of the old one. It's gorgeously produced, and I don't know, apparently there's a lot of sort of bickering over whether the changes they've made to the original canon storyline are you know, evil or good. But it seems like a very sort of traditional type of layout from what you can tell from just the first episode. But the reason for that might be that it's the source of that traditional layout for a lot of anime. Because it's such an old and well known and well loved series. But it's certainly gorgeous. It's got the same composer doing the score as did, say, Eld Noah Zero et al. So the sound is great as well. It's good enough in terms of its presentation to justify me continuing to follow it for a bit, just to see if it can hold up well on story as well. Although I'm not really a huge fan of these sort of like galaxy spanning 2-faction battles. Like, that's more of a Gundam thing. Although Gundam's probably, you know, contemporaneous with the original of this. I'm not really sure about that, but yeah. It's I'm not really a huge fan of that sort of Eternal War layout in that sense. I don't know. It will probably grow on me if I spend a bit more time with it, but I'm not a fan of the original material, having never seen it, so it's got a bit more work to do there. Yeah, but speaking of Eternal War, have you seen this new thing for Warhammer?
I have not.
Basically Warhammer 40k children's stories.
That sounds like a really bad idea. Like, really bad.
Contradictory.
that's my impression as well. Like, I looked online at the sort of a marketing basically website for it, where they like have previews of the characters and their bios, and everything about it's the super cringiest thing imaginable. Like, it's, oh my goodness, looking at it made me want to implode in shame, just like proxy shame.
Ugh.
Because it looks horrible. Horrible.
Ugh.
And there's nothing more that I want to say on that.
Just
because
teaching kids
it
to
hurts.
burn the heretic.
It hurts to say it. It hurts to think about it. Every part of it hurts. It's just, oh my goodness, it's awful. It's like super, super awful.
It's like Thundercats all over again.
Yeah, it feels like it in a sense. Like, it doesn't have the creepy social justice warrior overtones the way Thundercats does, where they, you know, androgynize all of the characters. But it's still, you know, this thoroughly not cool. And I don't understand why anybody thought that you needed to make a 40k for kids.
You really don't.
Really doesn't make any sense.
What are you going to
whatsoever.
teach them to do? Burn the heretic?
Yes.
Yes.
That's an important thing for all children to learn, is to burn the heretic.
Yes.
But yeah, that was an aside. I don't really think I've got much else to talk about right now, though, because I haven't had the time for any more than my one heavily abbreviated experiment with closes. So I think I'll just leave it there. I might think of something else that I did. I mean, I suppose there's one thing I can talk about, because it's been a while since I did this, which is to whinge about World of Warcraft.
Oh, yes.
I basically was waiting for access to the oven in the kitchen, and oftentimes what happens when I end up with an unplanned bit of free time of indeterminate length is I'll just randomly click around YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been following anything WoW for a long time because I haven't been playing it for quite some time. And that doesn't mean, though, that all of the people who do commentate on WoW have dropped out of YouTube's recommendeds yet.
It takes a long time for that to happen.
So I ended up picking on a couple sort of random videos of various sorts. No particular theme, but I ended up seeing a couple of lore bits, basically, in addition to various other things. And I was, whatever the opposite is of gratified, perhaps mortified, to see that I was 100% right when I had that big long whinge around the time of Tomb of Sargeras. Was it Tomb of Sargeras? No, it wasn't. It was the one after that, the patch after that.
Argus.
Argus? Yeah, Argus. Yeah. It was around the time of Argus, I had a big whinge about the way they had like purposefully shifted the story from, you know, classical heroic high fantasy themes to sort of like nihilistic relativist themes by deciding that the Naru are not good. They're just, you know, light powered. That, you know, basically overnight turning them into sort of like Machiavellian monsters for no real reason other than, you know, because they felt like it.
Yes, you will do what I say because we're right and we're good.
Yeah, well, at any rate, it turns out that I was 110% right about all of that, because they are going that way even further. And they're doing it in the clumsiest, most cringy, bad writing imaginable by using the expedient of inserting a time skip. So,
of course they are.
Basically, the way I understand it, and I haven't read anything or played any of this firsthand, so this is just like what I'm picking up from bits and pieces of videos. So I could be wrong about this, but I'm going to fly off the handle on it anyway, because that's what you do about things on the internet. You fly off the handle without bothering to check your facts.
Yes.
It's tradition.
It is the internet.
Basically, what happens is that you, at the end of Warlords of Draenor, everybody's all chummy, and you leave, basically. And you don't care about Warlords of Draenor, you never go back there. Number one, it's another dimension, and number two, nobody liked Warlords of Draenor, so why would you go back there?
Right.
Basically, during the time that your Azeroth, your home Azeroth is cut off from like other Azeroth, you basically times don't move in sync, and 35 years passes
Somehow.
before you go back there. And so when you go back there, everybody is old. And it turns out, because Draenei live a ridiculous amount of time compared to orcs. So the orcs are all old. The Draenei have barely aged a day because Draenei live for hundreds or thousands of years.
Space good longevity.
But yeah, so what basically seems to have happened in the meantime is that the Legion is gone. In that world, the Legion were totally repelled from Draenor, and so there's not really any body left to fight. The orcs and the Draenei are reconciled by getting together to fight this war. They've got this new war chief who's, it's Grom, so I don't understand why Grom is a peacemonger now, but I guess he is. Basically, with nothing left to do, Yril basically becomes this sort of sociopathic, I will convert everyone to the worship of the light by force character.
Yeah. Incidentally, the same Yril who spent most of Warlords in Draenor in various cages.
Well, I don't think that's strictly true. She was in a cage when you first meet her, and she never ends up in a cage again after that. That I can remember. But at any rate, despite being the heroine of that story
Allegedly.
on the Draenei side, well, she does a lot of stuff in cutscenes, which is more than we can say for Khadgar.
She does.
The shots.
But then she also does a lot of things where she's milling about in the background while you do everything and then takes all the credit. It's Trahearne all over again.
I mean, I don't think that's really any different to how everything always goes in MMOs.
True.
It's not as bad as Trahearne, though, because nobody talks about what a great person she is.
No, that's true.
You don't constantly get beaten over the head by how great Yril's accomplishments are. So, and you actually get some acknowledgement. But
yes.
Laying that aside, basically they have decided to do a total about face on her character off screen by putting in a time skip, so they don't actually have to write in a reason.
Yes,
which
time happened.
I think is basically the sloppiest way imaginable that you could do such a thing. I mean, I guess it's possible that they're going to explore that later. When they originally pitched Yril's character, she had a dark secret, which they then proceeded to say nothing about. Ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could do something with that, but I think that that's really dumb, and basically it seems like a brazen setup for, expansion after Battle for Azeroth. We're going to basically fight the Narrow because we beat the Legion.
Yep.
There's no Legion left, and therefore there's nothing left for the Narrow to do. And basically the Narrow have been since Legion have basically been turned into a force which is somehow supposed to be simultaneously good, but they want to enslave everybody because reasons.
Somebody played an SMT game and saw the law faction. That's a good idea.
It's a really, really sloppy version of the already sloppy paint by numbers law factions in SMT.
So ultimately, we've run out of big bads to kill, so now we've got to start killing the good guys.
We're going to kill the big goods instead.
Yes.
The Titans are actually evil for making the universe. Nihilism everywhere.
That's going to be the expansion after, by the way.
Yeah, you got to stop the suffering by killing the Titans and blowing up the universe.
Yeah.
And it really does seem to be the case that they're intent on making there be no good guys, which is not something I think that is actually long-term healthy for a story, because it just means that rather than it's not even like the old. The thing is, before, when you have two factions, it was always a case of, well, you've got to have this sort of internal debate of sorts, right, where you're trying to decide whether you're taking the route which is good, or whether it's well, this is good from your faction's point of view and whatnot. But there were definitely things that were good and things that were evil, and the light was good, and the demon arts were evil. And you can tell. And why can you tell? Because when you're a warlock, you do evil things.
Yes.
You do evil things. You don't anymore. They surgically removed all that stuff in the game to make warlocks less evil for some reason. But you used to have to sacrifice an innocent, for instance, in order to summon your succubus.
Yep.
Does anybody remember that quest?
The initial quest. I remember
back
it.
in the day.
I remember the Alliance version of it and having to go to the Barrens.
Ugh. No wonder you have horrible memories of it.
That is easy by comparison to the Horde one, because the Horde one has you go to the wetlands through multiple alliance zones, all of which are above your level. So,
and very, very
let's just
openly
say-
hostile.
Bad times all around.
Oh yeah.
It's bad times from an in-character point of view, but those are the sorts of times that also make memories in MMOs. They
Yes.
don't do those sorts of quests anymore.
Like running
Yeah,
through
I know.
those zones naked.
Having to go to a random butt island in the middle of nowhere to get your circumstance.
Yep.
At any rate, I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly because that might have been the Fell Hunter one. At any rate,
Anyway.
you are very definitely an evil person because you have to do a horrible thing in order to get your demon. Like there's no moral ambiguity there. There was no, from a point of view, it's okay to kill this innocent because you're going to get a sex demon as a result. Like, there's no way to sell that as a good thing to anybody. Basically,
Kill an innocent for boobies.
Yes.
This is not a good act. This is a decidedly evil act.
yes.
This
But,
shifts your alignment if you were not already evil.
Yeah, but so that for the longest time we've had the light being the force of good, and now it's just the force of power. And this is where the Nietzscheanism comes into it. Like ultimately, if there are no good guys and no bad guys, there's no reason to work for anybody in universe other than the people that will pay you the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are no ideals to work for anymore, at all. Not really.
And yeah, it also raises the question: what happens after you blow up the Naru? How are the priests and the paladins going to heal anybody?
Well, I mean, I presume that they're going to come up with like a Naru who's like, oh, but he like embodies like freedom, man. Because that's the thing, right? The new morality of the modern era is freedom to the exclusion of all else. Like that's the thing, and it's like I was saying last week as well, to a certain extent, that this is just the way people think now, is that freedom is always a good used for whatever you want to use it for, because it's free. That makes it good, and which is a very bizarre way of looking at the world. But apparently people do.
People have no concept of the idea of freedom of choice as being separate from generic freedom.
Freedom to fail, freedom to make a mistake.
At any rate, so because they're on this sort of bizarre SMT kick, the idea of Illidan's resistance to the Naru, because the Naru want to enslave him to their will to fulfill his destiny that they have foreseen, etc., etc. As cringy as that writing originally was, it's no less cringy that they are basically now sabotaging one of their races and turning them into just another group of creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just find it funny that as SMT realizes that they need to start dressing up their long chaos alignments because they're just old, they're simplistic, and they're outdated. They've started to dress them up and put them in frilly clothes. And here's WoW stripping down its conflicts to just the bare, simple law versus chaos.
Well, I think that that's a cultural thing, and the way that I think that that could be framed is, it's like the traditional Eastern way of looking at philosophy and metaphysics and the mysticism that grows out of those is everything is dichotomous. Everything is an interplay of good and evil, and those two things are decidedly opposed to each other in a lot of ways. Everything is based around conflict, and so you're going to end up drawing battle lines sooner or later, and there is a lot of nuance that can grow into that, but at its base, everything is about the conflict between sort of two grand forces. And the Western conception developed differently because the artistic tradition of the West grew out of Christianity, which grew out of the sort of the noble pagan virtues, and then you basically combine that with philosophy, and you build what is a very sort of complex collage of culture, where it's a very well developed idea of heroism versus evil, as opposed to elemental forces of good and evil. So in Shin Megami Tensei, you start with elemental forces, basically law and chaos, good and evil. They're all fundamentally pure quill elemental forces. They just exist somewhere and act in their own accord in a sort of Gnostic fashion. In the West, you start with the heroic myth and all of the nuance in them. If you are going to try and look like you are more developed, you're going to head from one direction to the other. The simplistic Shin Megami Tensei model doesn't have the sort of nuance that satisfies people on a character narrative level, because people don't operate quite in that way. People don't actually align with a pure element of any sort. On the Western side, people have developed, since the advent of modernity and post-modernity, this idea that the deconstruction is king, that you need to strip things down and get at simplified, pure elements within the story, which are somehow magically more true than the experiential elements that they originally espoused. So they're both moving in the opposite direction, both for the reason that they want to develop, except the Eastern model is developing and the Western model is regressing. So yeah, that's what we're seeing here, and it's something that you can see in a lot of media these days. Is stories moving in a more relativist, more nihilistic direction, basically embodying the Nietzschean will to power. Like, something is good if you have the power to declare it so, basically.
Modern readings and interpretation of Nietzsche just make me tear my hair out.
Well, the fact is that Nietzsche was a mad genius. He was everything that he wasn't absolutely 110% right about, he was perfectly wrong about. Like, in the sense that if you invert everything that he said, he would then be right. So he was actually very good at what he did. I think what he did was wrong, like, categorically, in all of the respects with which I feel that he's gone astray. But his work is actually very, very well refined. The modern reading of his work is not very well defined. The modern reading of his work is basically like, do whatever feels good, man, which is not really helpful. But the effects that type of thinking has on the culture at large, and how that plays out through the media, is what generates this idea that you need to remove good and evil from everything, because everything is just a point of view. There's nothing which is good for its own sake and nothing that is evil for its own sake. There's just shades of grey and points of view, which is not actually the metaphysic that normal people live from day to day. There are lots of people who claim to think that way, but almost nobody acts that way. It's impossible. It's against nature to operate that way.
And what's more, in the Warcraft universe, they already had the morally gray system with the two factions, where they were effectively two countries that ran differently and came into conflict with each other. We already had that point of view conflict. But having the Legion and the Light as your cosmological good and evil just seemed to fit in fine with that universe and didn't need touching. You already had a morally gray conflict. But they scaled up their conflict so quickly. When you get to that power scale where you're punching the gods in the face, I guess they just didn't see anywhere else they could go.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, really, is that I feel sometimes like what they're doing is they're just trying to string out the game, making it increasingly outrageous every time, in the hopes that eventually it will fail and they can stop doing it.
That'll hit a global reset button and release WoW 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the apocalypse I would welcome at this point.
Yeah.
The idea that, all of those things that the Holy Light as an ideology in World of Warcraft espoused, they're all lifted straight from classical Christianity, except you've surgically removed atonement from it because that's hard to do in a game. But the idea now is that, somehow creatures that embody that are, well, they're not even really creatures, they're more like beings, but the beings that embody that are somehow also actors independent of it, which means that the holy light was never something worth worshipping to begin with, because it's just it doesn't actually have anything moral attached to it. Because if you don't actually embody all of those moralities, if you're a creature that embodies the light, it means you're subject to a higher authority. There is something else that dictates morality, and that it's nothing to do with the force or entity that is the holy light. So basically, you throw the cosmology into chaos. You throw the sort of details of what a Naru is into chaos. You throw the moral axes of the story into chaos. You throw the motivations of a lot of characters into chaos. Suddenly, a lot of things don't actually make sense, and all of the master stroke of humanism and all of this is that if the light is no longer good, it means that all of the good servants of the light, their goodness was manufactured arbitrarily within themselves, and that it's that they're such great people, which is, that's the modern atheistic line on morality, is that morality is spontaneously synthesized by awesome people. But that's where that ends up going, and where that ends up going is utilitarianism and rule of the strongest. So ultimately, where you end up with narratively is the strongest person is the person that is good, and Nietzsche wins in the end. And you just can't do classic heroic high fantasy like that, because there are no heroes. That's the long and short of it. There are no heroes.
Yeah.
If they go this route, then there is no longer any heroism in the story. There is only winners and losers.
They're going to try to make Illidan out to be a hero, though. They're going to try real hard to sell you on it.
Well, I mean, the fact is that Illidan's hero cred has been maintained simply by making him win all the time. Like, that's all that you can see him doing. Like, he always chose the wrong method to do everything that he did classically in Warcraft.
Yeah, that was kind of his
was the
base of his arc.
Character.
Yeah.
But the idea that he is the good guy is only supported in World of Warcraft by the fact that he always turns out to be right, because the plot makes him so. That's just how it operates. So yeah, it's not the greatest piece of writing in the world, but that is like the direction that they seem to be planning to go in general, is that they are trying to basically cash in on the idea of using a freedom slavery axis, and basically blending their sort of class warfare ideas in with it and that sort of thing. Like, I'm not trying to make a conspiratorial case that this is an ideological political move. I'm saying that the writing is degrading because the culture is degraded, and that they are making their game less of what it could be simply by being too lazy to come up with an actual threat and an actual villain.
Yeah,
like, I know they've gotten used to having Sargeras looming in the background for a long time, and that's allowed them to rest on their laurels because there was always a great evil, and that's gone now. But if you are not competent to write philosophy, don't think that you can write narrative about philosophy just because it's not as important. It's just not making sense here.
If I was on their writing staff right now, they have an idea to step back and do Battle for Azeroth and try and scale back a bit, but I don't think they're going to stick with it. That I would go whole hog into taking a step back and bringing the conflicts more down to earth and personal, and make the conflicts not cosmic scale. We're already past high fantasy and into cosmic fantasy at this point, but
yeah. Well, the thing is, that sort of stuff has a sort of a limited shelf life, because no one can relate to it at all. Like, nobody exists and lives on that level. Everybody exists and lives on the human level, generally speaking. Like, their day-to-day experience is the stuff that they do day-to-day, the stuff that people do day-to-day. It's not actually, like, nobody actually goes and punches Zeus in the face on every Friday. Like, that doesn't happen.
There is a shelf life to that for how long you can immerse yourself in that world. But I feel like this is the good time. You punch the big bad. If you don't know where to go, you need to bring it back down.
What confuses me though is that once upon a time they wrote these stories, right? Like they wrote a story where Arthas the prince becomes the Lich King, right? And the Lich King was the boogeyman for a long time. And it's not a complicated story, but it was a competent one.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sort of a fall arc, and where a great shining hero becomes the great evil threatening everyone for what were ostensibly originally good intentions, and that were then twisted. Like, that writing was competent. It wasn't, the most spectacular, groundbreaking sort of character arc in the world or anything like that, but it was definitely competent. And they don't write anymore. They just take things that they've got and twist them. And that's the thing. Like, the whole Sargeras story, like, they keep retconning it and altering facts about it, but they haven't written anything new.
Every time we talk about the history of their cosmology or their big bads in that universe, or we always get into an argument because they've retconned it so much, and we don't know what's true anymore.
Yeah, the thing is, though, that it's always retconning. They don't just write new stuff.
Yeah.
Why not? Why can't there be new stories in World of Warcraft? It's a world. Stuff is supposed to happen there.
Yeah.
We know there was a Warcraft Bible. We know they have rules for that universe established somewhere. And as long as a Bible exists for your series, when you're making a project of this scope, you can stick to it and just keep adding to it, as long as you follow the rules.
Come to think of it, they have not done just a completely brand new villain for WoW at any point. Yeah, it's always been someone they've dragged out.
There's no reason. Well, the thing is, they have once in a while, but they're always as one-offs, like the Thunder King. And guess what? When they did that Thunder King storyline, everybody loved it.
Yes.
Like, that raid dungeon was the most popular one they've done in years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ulduar expanding on the Watchers and the Keepers didn't have new characters per se, but it expanded on concepts of potential characters and introduced them with the Watchers and what's going on there. And those were, for the most part, new at the time, and people love that one.
Well, I think it's worth noting that everybody loved that when it was new, but when they've tried to repeat that, nobody has loved it.
Yeah.
When they've tried to just draw it out and spin the same thing over and over again, nobody cares. And I think that this is the problem, is they don't ever do any new writing. They just try and reuse old writing again and again and again. It's just not what people are there for. People want a cool story. If they're interested in story at all, they want a cool story. They don't just want to see the same old thing dragged out time and time again. It's not what they want. And that's the problem. Like, the reason why they're writing themselves into these really weird ideological corners by, like, messing about with the light and the narrow and that, you're not making your story deeper or broader. You're just repeating the same things over again. You're just trying to reuse material, and in order to do that, you end up having to do strange and unnatural things to extant characters and concepts. So there's no reason to do that. And I think that, and what I'm worried about is that Battle for Azeroth will be 100% that, because basically we're going to put the war back in Warcraft, the expansion.
Again.
Well, no, the thing is that, that what I'm saying here is not that they haven't said that before.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they actually have said it so many times that now they're basing an entire expansion on something that they have tried to do every time.
Yeah.
Like, every time they've tried to do this, every single time, and now they're trying to do an entire expansion on a thing that they have attempted every time. And the reason you attempt to do an expansion on it is when you think you failed previously. So what they basically have is a record of failure on the exact thing that they are now going to try and make content based on, which seems really unwise to me. The one thing that you have tried over and over again to accomplish and have singularly failed without fail is the thing that you're basing your grand expansion on. It seems like a lack of wisdom on their part, if you ask me. But
it's Blizzard. What do you expect? Of course, it's got a lack of wisdom.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Blizzard, once upon a time, wrote Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3. Wrote all of those content, created all of those characters, those villains, those heroes that people still love. There are still people who think that Uther was cool. There is nobody who thinks Garrosh is cool.
No.
There are people who think Grom is cool, and through his repeated abuse in World of Warcraft, people no longer think Thrall is cool.
Yeah, he's kind of this
Like, I think
dad figure in the background now.
I think that's sort of like the shining example of how they have screwed up, is that they've taken a character that people loved in Thrall and they have made him uncool simply by, trotting him out and twisting his character over and over again until he's not really emblematic of anything anymore.
He's just a broody Mary Sue. At least that's how he was when I stopped following his story.
Green Jesus.
He might have gotten better or worse or changed since then, but when I gave up, it was Thrall was a generic broody Mary Sue.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a heroic character once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to stand for certain virtues and ways of thinking that others in his culture didn't, and use that outlook to try and bring a new day to his people. But since then, he's basically just been a plot device who reacts to things. And that's pretty much it. Because they, just want to use over and over again, use the same old story, same old characters. Like, just put them to bed. It's what needs to happen here. There's no need to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Get some actual writers, and I don't mean your farm out franchise writers. Like, as much as I like Christie Golden, the only things I've seen Christie Golden do are things that are franchise work, which means that ultimately no serious brute force creation is required. You've got material to work with to begin with, which is a different activity. But they need to get back to the mindset they had when they were writing original stories for Warcraft, something on that scope. Because they just, all they're doing now is they're trying to find something already in the matrix to exploit. They're not trying to actually bring newness to their world, and it results in them doing dumb things. And I object for a range of philosophical reasons and artistic reasons to what they're doing with the Naru. But the reason they're doing it is because they're too scared to write a new story. So they're just trying to stretch an old one.
I'm pretty sure every not completely incompetent tabletop DM at my hobby shop can write a better story than what they got going on right now.
At any rate,
I would trust them over whoever they got now.
At any rate, I have another bone to pick with them, and it's in a similar vein, but orthogonal to it, because this is about practicality rather than about the content. And that is, it looks like, from what I can see, that once again they are putting the backstory to the new expansion in a novel.
Again?
Yeah. But so it looks like, and this is, I guess, spoilers for a novel I haven't read because I've only seen the chatter about it. But basically, it seems like they are trying to kick off this new conflict by having, basically, there's someone brokers a summit of sorts between the Forsaken and the humans of Lordaeron, who are now living in Stormwind, I guess, so that families can reunite, so that they can meet so basically the members of the family which have become Forsaken and members that are still alive can meet and chat and whatever. And Sylvanas is naturally super ultra hyper suspicious of this because it sounds like a trap, and there are a gajillion ways it could be a trap. And basically it turns out that it wasn't a trap to begin with. But then a bunch of skullduggery goes down, and the last surviving member of the line of the Throne of Lordaeron ends up getting killed in the crossfire because of her own stupidity, basically. And that basically creates massive amounts of war tensions between the two factions.
As it would.
That's the event which is most visible based on the stuff that people are talking about online. And that seems like, surely you learned your lesson last time. Nobody understood what Warlords of Draenor was about. No one knew why we were there or why we were doing the things that we were doing. The entire reason was in war crimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have War Crimes. I read it. Frankly, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense even with War Crimes because it's such a weird and tired plot device. But it makes more sense. Not that that's hard, but yeah. So they're jamming that in a novel again, and what's more, they are continuing, like in the vein of what I was just saying, continuing to do the same old silly things, like the descendant of the line of Lordaeron's kings who is killed gets raised as a light undead.
A light undead.
Yes, it's like an undead of the light or something.
Is this how the Forsaken become an alliance race?
This is like freaking. This is like good Drow all over again. Like Drow are always chaotic evil, in the way that the light always burns undead. Period.
The last time we had a good Drow, the only good thing to come of it was Jarlaxle.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The pirate dude from Drizzt's story.
Oh, it's in a Drizzt story. Then no wonder I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, everything about Drizzt's story is terrible.
Story.
Yes,
everything about the stories is terrible except for Jarlaxle the pirate.
I heard they're good if you read them when you're 13.
And in that edgelord phase.
But yeah, so yeah, two sins in that on that count. Number one being that they're putting the backstory in a novel that nobody will read, and number two that there are now light undead, which makes as much sense as the light Dreadlord did. But,
I forgot that was a thing. Why is that a thing?
And that builds on my previous point about they're trying to move the light away from being any kind of an embodiment of good to just being an arbitrary force.
Yeah,
just a power rather than something with any sort of moral impetus. Basically, they're trying to remove morality from the world as a force because basic Judeo-Christian thinking says that there are things that are inherently moral and things that are inherently immoral. Like killing an innocent is inherently immoral.
Mm-hmm.
But that in Judeo-Christian thinking is underpinned by the existence of an all-good creator who basically sets the standard for good, and privations of good are evil. So you've got a metaphysic that works there from top to bottom. They basically, they dummy that in with the light and the void in World of Warcraft, and now they're trying to dummy it out again, meaning that the light and the void are just arbitrary elemental powers. And it's, I don't know why they're so intent on butchering what they've got rather than, shoring it up. But
because they're bad writers.
Yeah, I guess that's in the end that's it. The writers are bad. Like the old writers got tired and the new writers are no good. That's the long and short of it. But yeah, so that's my World of Warcraft narrative rant. As far as the classes are shaping up, apparently, like I haven't heard very many nice things about them other than that, Demon Hunters are stealing the spotlight again.
Still.
Well, the fact is that the Demon Hunter was an opportunity for them to start from scratch and build a class that had no bloat.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have like a whole bunch of doggerel hanging around that didn't used to be that used to be relevant and no longer is. They never had to go through the process of pruning out the things that people loved so they could include things that people hated, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Like the other class are riddled with scars. The Demon Hunter is not. But yeah, so
Warlocks.
Yeah, they burned demonology to the ground again and rebuilt it.
Yeah, like I've still got that beta key. I really should look at it, but
it's the third or fourth time they burned that tree to the ground.
They didn't do it every other expansion.
Sometimes they do it within an expansion.
Yes.
But, the what else? Prot Warrior has been burned to the ground again.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody liked it in Legion. No big surprise. It was horrible to play. Well, in my opinion, it was horrible to play, and a lot of people agree with it. What else got burned to the ground? Survival Hunter got burned to the ground. Marksman Hunter got burned
again.
To the ground.
Beastmaster is the only true hunter.
Yeah. The reality is that a lot of these things needed to be burned to the ground, not because they were necessarily bad in Legion, but because artifact weapons were propping them up.
Yeah.
And without baking in a million passives, you can't just replicate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not really that interested in going back to playing World of Warcraft simply because it's still World of Warcraft in there. As anybody who dares to listen to this episode has already guessed, their cosmology is becoming rapidly offensive to me. But the classes that I play, you know, they're more or less holding steady from what I can tell, both for good and for bad. Brewmaster is staying roughly in the ballpark of where it is now, and where it was by the time everything shaped up in the end was pretty decent. It was fun to play, except that you eventually ended up looking like a mad pianist.
Yeah.
As haste ramped up, because haste was so good, but you ended up having to just hammer the buttons. Like it was like most classes, like let's say your Retribution Paladin, for instance, was very simply executed in Warlords of Draenor, particularly. You could just run in and bam, blow up a mob, right?
Yep.
You hit the buttons which do the damage. Yeah. In order to accomplish the same thing with a Brewmaster monk, like outside of boss tanking, you would still be the mad pianist. Because collectively you did damage and you did your job. Individually, none of your abilities were any good except Keg Smash. So if it didn't die in one Keg Smash, you had to do the mad pianist routine. So Brewmaster did get a bit tiresome after a while. I don't know how much of that will carry over. Every time there's an expansion change, most of the classes slow down.
Usually,
you
yeah.
You don't have a gajillion crit and a gajillion haste and so on.
End of Wrath, Unholy Death Knight. Oh goodness, why did I play that class?
Because it was fun during Wrath.
My fingers hurt just remembering it.
As far as paladins go, like the Protodon, from what I could tell, is still more or less the same.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like they've actually made it more engaging or anything. Maybe there will be things that they can do, maybe they won't.
Yeah.
It's sort of hard to say.
Demo
Retribution has apparently been burned to the ground though, because everybody hated the way it was in Legion.
They've never gotten Retribution right.
Never. I
think that Retribution was acceptable in Warlords of Draenor. It was acceptable.
It was acceptable.
Because it had a rhythm you could build to, it had a resource you could manipulate and control. It was way too reliant on cooldown burst windows, but other than that, it functioned. In Legion, they turned it into a gimped arms warrior, and the only thing that mattered was having more haste. Because you had to use judgment, open the judgment window, and then try and somehow keep the judgment window open, or your damage would fall off a cliff and you'd do nothing. It was really awkward, and nobody liked it because that class already existed. It was called Arms Warrior. But now they're basically abandoning that idea entirely. Like, the judgment is something that makes your next ability do more damage. And your mastery is now focused on just converting part of your damage to holy rather than opening a judgment window even further. But
we need to move towards the break, by the way. We're an hour and
we
a half.
do. We need to wrap this up.
I'll finish what I was saying.
Yep.
This was going to be the last thing I was going to talk about anyway. But I think that they are moving in the right direction with Retribution Paladin. Not right enough for me to be excited and want to go back and play WoW again. But I think they're moving in the right direction because they're going for this sort of thing where you sort of, in a discrete way, you will set up like periodic bursts of things. Like, I'm going to burst, like you have little bursts regularly, as opposed to having one big burst phase in which you do everything and then you sit on your hands for 2 minutes, like in Legion, or this frantic attempt to keep the judgment window open perpetually or do no damage, which is what you had in Legion. First one was Warlords of Draenor, second one was Legion. Yeah. But yeah, so overall, World of Warcraft totally fails to excite me. I'm not going back. End of story.
Yep.
Alrighty. We really need to go to a break. So, mostly because I really got to pee. So we will be back in just a little bit, folks. Yeah. Do you have anything else, Vol?
Nope.
Oh dear. That was sudden. Yes, we are back.
Oh, we are back. Okay. I'm not sure where we're at.
He's kind of
Anyway,
meandered into it.
I thought you counted us in.
I did.
Okay. I'm confused. Anyway. I guess we're done with Falls Week, so we're on to my week.
Yes.
I had my Memorial Day weekend happen early, and I was not expecting that, so I couldn't plan for it. So I had a day and a half off the week before Memorial Day because it turns out I got to work on Memorial Day. Yay. So I went to the store and bought some video games. I needed a break from Strange Journey. Strange Journey was actually killing me.
It's not a very nice game.
No, it is a mean game that's out to kick you repeatedly in your genital sac. Like, it'll make you hurt. Your soul will actually take damage playing that game.
Ugh.
But yes. And if you have played the original game, seeing the new designs of the Booby Zoroastrian lady and the rehashed design of Maria or any of the new bosses is not worth it. Don't subject yourself to this again. It is painful. But yes. I was actually disappointed. They touted that new Zoroastrian lady as like a big deal, and it's just like, no, she's just a new Megami. It's just like the water booby lady.
Water booby lady.
It's what the fan base knows her as. So, I had to put it down. I had to take a break. I did not play it basically all week. I got to what I think is the split point. I finished the bonus dungeon. They rehashed the design of Maria from SMT9 and made her the amalgamation of everything in all religions named Maria or Mary or something of it. And it's a really weird design and a really weird boss. It doesn't have any real lore because it's a mishmash. I'm like, okay, I guess that's the thing. The road getting up to her was an absolute nightmare. Just horrible. Teleporter puzzles. No, I'm done. I need a break.
All teleporter puzzles. All of it.
Done. There's only so much I can inflict on my brain before I start doing permanent short-term memory damage from having to remember all the puzzle routes.
Yeah.
It is so draining playing that game. It is an effort to get through those levels. I will finish it. I must finish it. It's part of a franchise I love, and I'm almost there.
Just cannot admit defeat on this one.
No, I'm going to chew my way through it. Although I did get to the last second. And there's a whole half of it that you can't access until New Game Plus, but it counts towards your map completion percentage.
Oh dear.
I was mad.
Yeah. It's going to be really horrible in there.
I don't care about that. I'm not going back for New Game Plus because that noise. I'm not doing these maps again. They could talk me into it if they let me keep my maps that I'd already mapped going into New Game Plus. Then maybe.
What system does it use? Does it use points by?
I think it just is New Game Plus Reincarnation or Rebirth. Reincarnation, you take everything, but I don't know if maps are included in that because it's the only game that does them. Or Rebirth, where you start from scratch with the New Game Plus bonuses unlocked, which are like new zones and new potential fusions and stuff. But you lose all your items in Demon, and your level resets. So there's a picture of the new booby lady that was all over the marketing in the live show chat.
All right. Okay.
Every time you say that, I keep thinking Lychee from...
Yeah, there is really only one booby lady.
I am channeling a bit of Makoto, yes.
Yes.
But we'll start with the smaller topic of the two games I bought on a whim this week because I needed to play something other than Strange Journey before I went insane. And speaking of booby ladies, so Gynax misflops a lot. The sorceress from Dragon's Crown has been all over my feeds recently. So I saw the box for Dragon's Crown on a whim. I went to the store to buy another game, but we'll talk about that one after this. And the box was a solid metal box. It was a really pretty box. It was fully embossed, and it had some goodies in it. And I'm like, it's $40. or $30. I don't even remember. Like, yeah, sure, why not? I have money, so I bought Dragon's Crown again. I brought the PS4 version and got the Dragon's Crown Pro, which doesn't have that many changes, to be completely honest, and doesn't really warrant a rebuy, especially since there's crossplay between the Vita, PS3, and PS4, so it doesn't matter which version you got. But yeah, I still enjoy the game. They have fixed up the drop rates to favor the class you are playing a bit more now, though.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I heard that just recently. Remember, it doesn't sound good.
Okay, it does not give you legendary drop rate increases. You're not getting S-rank chests all over the place.
Oh, good.
No, the game will still kick your butt, even on normal, especially if you go in solo. And yeah, where was I going with this? But yes, so now, previously, it would just give you loot from chests in dungeons, and it could be for any class at all, and you would get stuck in these grind loops where you've got like level 9 earrings or something, and you've just got to replace them because they're so far behind the rest of your gear, they're holding your damage back. And you would just get stuck going, okay, sorceress loot, sorceress loot, sorceress loot, give the booby lady some loot, and you wouldn't get it. And you would this grind loop would just get stuck because you would keep getting bows or axes or stuff you just can't use. So they have changed the loot system, and they retroactively changed this on the other versions as well, I found out. So this is not exclusive to the Pro version, where you will get the loot typed heavily weighted towards the class you are playing. So, for instance, if you are playing a sorceress, you will get more staffs and earrings. If you are playing an elf, you will get more bows and boots. Just from the loot table. And if you play with multiple people, and you can bring AIs if you want to build your armory for other alts you might make, it's spread out across all the classes, but the weapon rolls are for your class only. So when a weapon drops, it is unique to each person when they go back. That's not shared loot, but the rest of it will be the same for everybody.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you are playing an elf and your friend is playing a berserker, and the chest for one of you that gives you both loot, but if it drops weapon, it'll be rolled separately for both of you, and it'll be weighted in favor of your specific classes, but it can give you something else. So that has been greatly appreciated. That is why I put the game down and didn't come back to it the first time, because you would get stuck in these little grindy loops where you just had to go grind a lot.
What, because the gacha doesn't like you?
Yeah, basically. And because the way you get loot in that game is each dungeon has a set number of chests in it, and you call your rogue buddy to come unlock them, and it'll say treasure got. You get a treasure rank somewhere between E and A with a special S rank for the really good loot. I've only seen one S rank piece of gear. It was a bow, and it lasted me about 7 levels. So it wasn't that good. And it was comparable to stuff I was getting all the way through those 7 levels. I do not know what in-game gear is like in this game, but I do know the game extends into a hard mode Path B with new bosses, and I do know that there is a super duper hate yourself hard mode after that. So there's a lot of stuff to play with. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been playing with randoms because I didn't tell anybody I was getting this game. I got it completely on a whim. And so far, I am the only elf main that I've seen like anywhere. Nobody plays the elf.
How many people go for the sorceress?
Almost all of them. If not the sorceress, the barbarian. It is all boobs and butts that follow me around in these dungeons.
But what about the Darth?
Nobody plays the Darth.
I've seen like 1 or 2 Darths. But, no, that's a lie. Those were fighters. I haven't seen any Darths.
But the Darth.
I have seen no Darths.
Darth.
That is dwarf for those not in the know of our special words. Courtesy of Abo.
So
yes.
I would have considered joining you, but yeah,
it's expensive.
It is expensive. They want $80 Australian for it. So that's on the PlayStation Store. So how about now?
$80 dues.
$80 dues.
It's amazing how even in US monies, I would still be like, I could maybe pay that for a new game right now, just because I have money but no time to play video games.
See, that wouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, money is one of those things that is kind of limited.
Yeah. But I'm in a life situation where I got cash. I got savings.
You just don't have the money.
got all my
The
bills.
time.
I got all my bills paid. I ain't got no time. It's not quite as bad as Volacel while he's still settling into his job. I've had time to settle into mine, but it is a similar situation.
Mm.
But yeah, I've been having fun with it. I've been bouncing along on my elf and having people with their flopping boobs and butts follow me around and assist me. Because those dungeons are really not meant to be done solo. That's one of the quirks of Dragon's Crown. You can do them solo, but it's really not recommended. I would even say just take the AI with you rather than trying to do it alone. You're just asking for pain and trouble.
AI in those games is usually, completely useless.
It's not too bad in Dragon's Crown. It's certainly better than the flopping boobs and butt that are following me around and supposedly controlled by a human. But that's not hard, considering all they do is die.
Yeah.
Like, the people I have been playing with online are so bad. I've started to just say, I'll take the AI instead.
Oh dear.
Yeah, like, it's that bad. Are they just staring at their characters' like secondary sexual characteristics? Like, is that what they're doing?
Mm.
Is that the reason behind this?
Well, they're pendulous and hypnotic.
Yeah, I actually was going to try the sorceress out because she looks interesting. She's a support caster who can bringing them back to turn to NPCs, and you get a really powerful ally for the dungeon, and you have support spells that allow you to like conjure food, so you are always at full health between encounters. And instead of arrows or a weapon system, she runs on a mana system where she uses that to cast various spells based on what direction you hold when you press the circle button and what staff you have equipped. And it looked really cool, and I thought that was really interesting. But she just flops too much. Like, if you don't understand, like, the poor girl has to lift like 12 pounds every time she takes a breath. Like, necromancers in general in Vanillaware games are very well endowed young women, and this is just a shtick. It is supposed to juxtapose like something that is associated with giving life with raising the dead or something. I don't know. Vanillaware's weird.
Yes, yes they are.
And just trying to play the sorceress, I'm just like, this is so distracting. I can't do this. It's not arousing or anything. It's just distracting. Like, having a human brain is going to see those things flopping everywhere and just be like, by modern culture standards, that's weird. Brain's going to focus on it nonstop.
That was deliberate. Like, it's not that it's oh well, this is a thing for the guy that drew it. No, that it's drawn deliberately to be sort of like a caricature of itself.
Yeah.
Every animation she does, they're flopping all over the place like a windmill. Like, it's just too much floppy boobies. So, and then I tried to play the Amazon, which I almost stuck with, but it's just too easy. Like, period. She does way more damage than any other class for so little effort. I have one sitting around. If either of y'all, for some reason, or one of my other friends decides to pick up the game and wants to start a new character, I'll probably play it with them. But it's just way too easy a class to get results from. Compared to what I was having to put up with the sorceress and elf, it's just like, jump in the air, do the spinning move, do 300 damage at level 3. Yeah. Like, what? It's just I could not get behind that playstyle. It felt like being rewarded for doing nothing.
Yeah, is she at least fragile?
She has low magic and physical resistances, but she has really high health.
Right.
So she's going to... The hits she takes are going to be big, but she generally has a big enough health pool to soak it, and since food recovers in percentages, with a couple boosts to that passive to make it boost more percentages, she ain't going to die anytime soon. And as she attacks successfully, she moves faster and attacks faster. And this builds up to a cap until she starts berserking, where she's literally running circles around the enemies. So I almost played as Jigglybutt, but in the end I settled on the elf as my main, because the elf, unlike Jigglybutt and Jiggly Chest, or Floppy Chest, she actually takes some thought to play. Although there's one quirk with her that I don't like, and that's in that weird beat 'em up style game, lining up arrows on an axis is really tough. Especially when you have to do jumping shots. So imagine you're playing like Streets of Rage, and you're trying to throw what's her name's fireball, but now you have to angle it down from the air. Like, that kind of shot is really hard with that camera. It is not something that clicks right away. Right. So, yeah. But other than that, I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I did adjust to it eventually. It just took forever to get used to landing shots with those arrows. And even then, if the camera zooms out and it's a bigger monster you're fighting, they can still be a little hard to hit. But generally, it's pretty forgiving. You don't have to be perfectly lined up on the right y-axis with the monster you're fighting to hit them. You just got to be pretty dang close.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoy the game. I enjoy the dungeon crawly, traditional D&D style narrator. And you can now pick from any of the voice actors who did any of the voices for the characters. So you can have Aaron Fitzgerald, better known as Chie, the new Chie in Persona 4, not doing her Chie voice at all. That girl has incredible range with the sorceress's voice. I'm like, I did not believe it was Aaron Fitzgerald at first. Like, this is not Chie at all. But yeah, that girl's got some range, and I forgot just how good a range she has. I have her as my narrator right now. Or you can have, who does it? Yuri Lowenthal does one of the voices. He does the sorcerer, I think, the wizard. And Guillemon does the fighter.
Right. Please say he's using the Guillemon voice doing it. Please.
I would love for him to talk like...
No!
I think that when you try and do the Guillemon voice, you just sound like Jar Jar Binks.
You do a bit, yeah. This is not something good.
The Kato man.
No,
I do kind of wish you did it, though. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, that's there's the who all is in this game? It's really good voice actors all around. Jameson Price, Patrick Seitz is in there. Cindy Robinson.
Pappenbrook.
No Pappenbrook.
Good.
You just haven't met him yet.
No, he's not in the game at all. He's not in the credits. I looked at the voice cast list.
They hardly ever put everybody in the credits, though.
That is true. He is in Persona 5. He sneaks in there as one of the cameramen for Anne.
Yeah. He's just a quick bit part.
Yeah, and like the scene where you're supposed to be dead.
Pappenbrook.
Yeah, he sneaks in while you're dead. That's where he snuck into the game. But yeah, actually, I found out, slight tangent, but I figured out Pappenbrook's in Death Battle now.
Yeah, he voiced Sora in the last one.
Fern mentioned Death Battle, and I was a couple episodes behind, so I was going through it. And I think I messaged him in all caps, like something, the phone, hold it. And like listen to the voice again, like 3 times. I'm like, that's Pappenbrook. I know Pappenbrook. He only has one voice.
Generic anime protag.
And so I did some Googling. I'm like, sure enough, it was Pappenbrook. He plays Sora in Death Battle.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pappenbrook won a Death Battle. That shows losing more credibility every episode they release.
It seems to be like the popular thing to hate on Death Battle.
Well, they've been making a lot of dumb decisions lately, especially Sephiroth versus Virgil. Like, that was really dumb.
I forget a lot of that one.
I haven't been watching them. Generally speaking, they're dumb from what I've seen. So.
Yeah. Oh, they've always been dumb.
Like they just make whoever they like win. Like all that other stuff is just window dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have put up battles specifically to push that away, like the Digimon versus Pokemon one.
It's always super transparent when they do.
Yeah, it's the level of power and the scaling of the Digimon and Pokemon they used was so astronomically far apart. It was like sending Superman to go fight Squirrel Girl. Like,
yeah, actually, I'd like to see that.
And Squirrel Girl, in theory, could win too.
Squirrel Girl is trolly enough that she would win.
Yeah, they've written her into like a Mary Sue metaphysical corner where she's like some kind of like matter manipulator or something.
She's quickly approaching reality warper at this point.
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that the current one is just a feminist.
Probably
Marvel, why you ruin your comics?
She got rewritten as this sort of like chubby, ugly, pug-nosed.
She's always been a bit dumpy, but yeah.
Now she looks like a blob. Like I've seen and drawn very crudely, I might add. Like whoever they got to do the art for their girl power reboot is really not good at their job.
Oh, that's a shame. I really like Squirrel Girl. She's just the right kind of goofy.
Yep. The joke right now is that an anime fighting game has Squirrel Girl in it before Marvel vs. Capcom with Makoto and BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. Because nobody's played the other BlazBlue games.
Oh dear. Anyway, we should move on.
But yeah.
Because time.
Oh right, so we are like really far behind. So yeah, Dragon's Crown. It's a good video game. I'm not going to go into it too much this week. I'll talk more about the gameplay and how much I really like it when I get further into the game, because I really want to play it.
I thought you'd already played it before.
I never finished it though. I never beat it because of the aforementioned grinding wall.
Yes.
So now that grinding wall's out of the way, I do want to finish it because I do like the game a lot. It's a lot of fun to play. There's a lot of small, intricate systems in that game. Now, the video game y'all are probably more interested in, and we'll have more to talk about with, is Dad of War.
Boy. The game.
The game is called Boy.
Boy!
I do not know, boy. Yeah, so my friend sold the game to me by telling me basically if you're okay with backtracking and you like going back to open new paths, you like the Tomb Raider style of gameplay, and you don't mind you don't mind them reimagining Kratos, you'll probably like the game. So I said, okay, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. So I bought a used copy for it wasn't that bad. It was like $50. So that's standard price for a newish used game in Murica. So that's practically full price. So I've been chewing my way through it, and it is a good game, but I have some reservations with it. So first, we'll start with the praise first. The difficulty levels in the game are set out at there's 5 difficulty levels. The 5th one being an I hate myself difficulty level, so we're not going to count that one. So of the 4, you have baby mode, give me the story. You have give me a balanced gameplay experience. And then you have give me a challenge, and then you have a hard mode. So I played on difficulty 4 if I'm south of I hate myself difficulty, and the game was absolutely kicking my butt. Right. Like, that difficulty mode is not messing around at all. It could easily have qualified as the I hate myself difficulty level. Enemies can take as many as 12 hits to kill at the start of the game, just the basic mooks, and you die in 2 to 3 hits. Like, it is not a forgiving system. And yeah, given how many different ways you have to move and block to avoid damage, you're gonna take a hit occasionally. So after about 3 hours of struggling with that, bumped it down to 3 out of 5. And that is still not a cakewalk. I'm still dying occasionally. Like, I die, instead of, 10 times per encounter, I die about once every 3 or 4 encounters. Right. The game does not mess around. It is not an easy video game. I'm, in fact, convinced all the reviewers had to play it on the baby give me the story mode.
They probably did.
Because the game some of the dudes you have to fight and the ways you have to go about taking them out, that combat system does not have a natural flow to it where you can just start owning people. It's not like, it is not as finely crafted as something like Bayonetta or something, or even the Dark Souls systems in the later games, where once you get mastery of the system, you can just completely destroy people. That does not happen in God of War. And a big part of this is directional blocking in the camera, where you cannot dodge certain attacks, you have to block them, and you can only block, about 100 degrees in front of your character. So you're going to get hit by stuff, and you're going to get hit by stuff off camera, because a lot of stuff does surround you and get off camera, which is not too big of an issue as long as you are not playing on the I hate myself difficulty level and can take the occasional hit. But on the harder difficulties, it just, to me, it was more frustrating than it was worth. But I'm glad the difficulty levels are set that high to begin with. I enjoy a challenge in a video game, and I feel like if you beat God of War on 3 of 5 or above, you can say you beat a fairly challenging game, which is not something I get to say very often. So it's a pseudo credit. They could have had some kind of in between difficulty at the difficulty I'm at and the dying 10 times per combat encounter. But yeah, so this leads into the first real gripe with the system, which I touched on earlier. The combat system does not have a natural flow to it. There is no getting into a combo rhythm and a blocking and dodging rhythm where you can just kind of weave your way through combat encounters and feel confident. You're always in a stressful situation in that game because characters can hit you from behind. And it is so counterintuitive in games in general to put your back to a wall. This is generally a bad idea because it limits mobility. But mobility in God of War doesn't really matter. You don't need to worry about movement. You only need enough space to perform the basic dodge, because some attacks you absolutely cannot block. You have to dodge, and some you have to block instead of dodge. So as long as you got enough space to strafe around the enemy and do the dodge, you're okay. And putting your back to the wall is advisable in every encounter. So every encounter kind of devolves into the same strategy. Get every single enemy in front of you first, so you can actually see what's going on. Chuck your axe at the low health things that are shooting fireballs at you, and hope you've had enough time to grind up experience and skill points to get whatever skill you need to deal with the monsters that are there. Because some monsters just almost require certain skills to take care of. Like the big armor dudes, you're not going to kill them anytime this century if you don't have the armor breaker charge up heavy attack move. It's just not going to happen. You're going to spend forever whacking on that armor with your axe bouncing off of them every other hit. And this combat system with this axe was getting really, really frustrating. And a point in the game's favor, about halfway through the game, this is a fairly moderate spoiler, you get the Blades of Chaos back.
Yeah.
Which I was very, very, very happy to use again, because unlike the stupid axe, they actually cover you from behind with some of their moves. So you can actually, get into some kind of combat rhythm with the Blades of Chaos. The only problem is when you bump into fire enemies and the blades just bounce off of them, and we get into a Devil May Cry situation of, can't use the red weapon on the wrong color-coded enemy.
Yay, color matching.
But thankfully, it's pretty toned down. But yeah, I was enjoying the game a lot more when I got my hands on those, and having the shield with the Blades of Chaos works surprisingly well, and they've matched them in a way where if you remember the old combos from like the first and third game, they still work. Like this, you've seen these moves before if you played God of War. Even if you don't remember them offhand, you'll start to get a kind of muscle memory click if you played those past games. Like, oh, that does that move again. I remember this same combo doing that move now after you push the buttons. And describing the Blades of Chaos' combo type moves is very difficult because they're kind of all just flailing blades on chains. So
there's a lot of spinning.
Yeah, even if you don't explicitly remember it, I found myself remembering, oh yeah, that was the light, heavy combo in God of War 1. So yes. After getting my hands on those, the game has been going much better. But the game is also very, very gear-focused and EXP-focused. You need to buy skills, and skills are very important. You can bot yourself and get yourself stuck with a bunch of useless skills. You have some kind of experience with these skill buying systems and be able to identify the skills that are going to be good. Otherwise, you're going to be up a creek without a paddle.
No joy.
Like getting the multi-target whatever when you throw the axe, not very helpful considering the axe does no damage. Getting the thing that lets you deal with armored targets, like I mentioned earlier, needs to be getting the thing that lets you rip enemies towards you and pull them from far away so they can't throw projectiles at you is a must. Getting the thing that lets you, if you block at the last second, reflect a projectile is a must. Knowing to identify this stuff from the garbage, like adding a finisher to your light, 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 heavy combo, is very important. Because another thing in this game is you don't do a whole lot of damage relative to enemy health bars. Even on difficulty 3 out of 5, you still need about 12 hits to kill anything if you're at their level. And your level is measured by the stats on your gear exclusively. So, yeah. And you can buy new gear by getting crafting materials, and you take it back to the Darfs, and the Darfs will say, oh, we can use this to make this type of gear, and you make this new type of gear that'll just be, better than whatever the last tier of gear was. And it is encouraged that you go out and explore at some point to go farm gear, because you will eventually fall behind and stuff will start kicking your butt.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know how I feel about that system, but it's there. And yeah, you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to stop and go side quest right now, even if you want to put it off because you don't have the keys for everything in this area yet. But yeah, it's the thing you have to do, period. So make of that what you will. Some people like that, some people don't. I am fairly indifferent towards it, the more I think about it. It's just a part of the game that you learn to accept. The narrative, because I actually have to talk about one of these in a God of War game now. So, this is not a reboot. As much as that word gets thrown around for this game, this is not a reboot.
I've not seen anybody use that word for this game.
I've seen it a lot, and it's not an accurate descriptor at all. This is God of War 4. The story is a direct continuation of the events of the first 3 God of War games, where Kratos beat the ever-living snot out of the entire Greek pantheon, and they all dead. And he went off to Norseland to go live with the Norse people and the Norse gods. And apparently he calmed down a little bit and had a kid with what I think is Frigg. I think he married Frigg. I'm not sure. It's not real clear what his wife's name was or who she was. They're being very vague about that. I'm about 3/4 through the game, I would think. I'm not sure. It's hard to judge because this game loves to pull the, okay, we've got an objective, boy. And the whole game is done with his kid, who has minor combat applications, but isn't relevant until you fully upgrade his bow, which doesn't happen until over halfway through the game. And boy, as I'm positive is his only name, because I think he said the name Atreus like twice, somewhere in the mid-game. Kratos doesn't ever call his kid by his name. He just calls him boy, which I spell B-O-I in all caps with an exclamation point.
Most people do.
Yeah. So him and boy have to go scatter Mama's ashes at the top of the highest peak in the realms. And they are in Midgard. So there's a whole lot of, all right, we made it to the top of the mountain. Up. What? This isn't the tallest mountain. We got to go to Jotunheim. Okay, we'll go there. Let's go to Jotunheim. The gate broke right when they're about to go cross. Build-ups to the end of the game, and it's a false ending. This has happened twice now.
I've heard the actual ending is also a false ending.
Yeah, it very well could be. And the big bad is Baldur. If you know anything about Norse mythology, it's going to be evident right away that it's Baldur. Like, the dude doesn't take damage, he's invulnerable, that's your stick. And he hadn't been killed by Loki yet in this continuity. So that story has not happened, apparently. And Baldur just shows up to your house and is like, I'm going to punch you in the face.
I'm going to kick you in the schnoz.
Pretty much. And this is the instigator for the whole plot. He's like, come boy, we must leave. We must go accomplish this mission that your mother asked of us. And, they could have just honestly settled for the tallest mountain in Midgard. I'm sure she would have been fine with that. Don't have to, be literal about it. But no. They got to do it right and go to Jotunheim and go drop it there. And so you go on your quest with Boy to go spread her ashes. And through the first third of this whole thing, you have Boy lampshading lore and world events that would be interesting to explore, and the way this universe interprets the Norse mythology, despite it being overdone to death these days. Boy will go, I wonder where the Giants went. Why aren't the Giants here? What was Tyr doing? And every single time he lampshades an issue that you might want to look into, Kratos just goes, I do not know. And the exchange of Boy wonders something the players are wondering, and Kratos going, I do not know, is super duper common. I was starting to tear my hair out by about the 12th time I heard it.
Well, I mean, Kratos probably hasn't read very much Norse mythology since he was so busy killing Greek mythology.
Yeah. And then there is the issue of Boy. Boy is obnoxious to begin with. Boy is, for the first half of the story, I can understand Boy's action. And then Boy gets sick. And it turns out Kratos still counts as a god, and like all Greek gods, he couldn't keep it in his pants, so he went and boinked something, and now he has a demigod to take care of. And this apparently is a problem for Boy. And Boy, at about the 66% way through the game, he gets a literal god complex. And decides that, oh, you just now told me I'm on the deity tree somewhere? Oh, well, all these petty little people don't matter anymore. After all, we're doing God stuff, right? It just, all of his character development gets chucked out the window for him to have this little God complex shtick for a bit. And it is the most painful thing to sit through and listen to. Like, Boy was building as a character, and whatever the heck this is completely destroyed it. He, tells off your blacksmith friend that because he's so tired of listening to his little blacksmith problems because he is so much bigger and better than little mortal blacksmith Darthman. It's just like, you little knobhead. And then he just kills a dude. This is a pretty big spoiler, but it needs to be mentioned because this is something that has turned a lot of people off from the game and has made me put it down. The kid just kills a dude for no reason.
Well, his dad is Kratos.
Yeah, but his dad is Kratos has been trying to teach him lessons like don't kill people.
Don't be me.
Yeah, basically, he sits the boy down and says, you're going to be better than me. You're not going to do what I did. Like, it seems like Kratos has finally had some kind of realization smack him in the face that he is a bad person. And this time, he's not going to do his family wrong. He's going to raise his kid right or something. And,
oh.
Fern?
Yep, that's all right. Fixed it.
There we go. But yeah, it's just too painful to sit through. And that's where I dropped the game. But there's one saving grace in all this at about halfway through. And that is Mimir.
Mimir Murray.
More skin on his.
We need more games with random talking heads.
Yeah, so halfway through the game, you meet Mimir. And this guy is the saving grace of the game when everything was starting to drive me nuts the first time. Where it's your portable head funny man. You find him tied up to a tree being tortured by Odin. And he's giving Kratos advice, and Kratos is just like, I'm going to cut your head off now. And just chops his head off. You take it back to Freya. She brings it back to life, and you have a funny man head with you tied to your belt the rest of the game. They can actually deliver on what Boy is pointing out.
Oh, good.
Mimir is the saving grace of this game's story. If Mimir did not exist, this would be horrible, and I would be absolutely trashing.
Ugh.
But yeah, until you get to Mimir, it starts to become a slog. But thankfully, somebody at the dev team had the foresight, like, we got to put some funny in here. Let's make the smart man the funny one and make him a head. And this was a wonderful idea, and I'm very happy they did it. But
yes, yeah. But whose bright idea was it to put Boy clear in the path of a Kratos ass-kicking?
Yeah, the guy doesn't have a good track record with gods that start talking like Boy's been talking.
Yeah, he tends to do horrible murdery things to them.
Yeah, I've tried to murder Boy, but the game I'm like, I'll be doing this world a favor if I can just chuck my axe through your head, and the game won't let me.
Ah.
I'm
But
pretty
yeah.
sure killing your own child is not the really dad maturing moment that the game wants to go for.
But it's
Yeah.
not entirely out of character for Kratos.
No,
And
it's not.
And in this case, it might be the right action. We don't know what he's a god of yet. Mimir assumes it might be language related because he has a talent with languages.
He's the god of boy.
He is the god of language and boy. His name is Boy.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I don't think there's any Atreus in Greek or Norse mythology to go off of what Boy could be. But yeah,
That just means he's going to die at the end of the story.
Good odds.
possible. I don't know how the story ends yet. I managed to go into this game unspoiled because I just didn't care until my friends started talking it up, and he really talked it up. He really. But yeah, it's a good video game, but there's good and bad, as with all video games. And I think I've covered most of what people would possibly want to know going into it, and probably spoiled a bit more than they wanted me to.
Maybe a bit.
But
Boy!
Boy.
But yeah, the story is pretty good. Although this God Complex thing needs to end soon, or I might drop the game.
I think Boy's going to end up getting a wake-up call.
Like, Boy needs to cause something terrible to happen, and I need a pretty good justification for why he was acting that way in the first place.
Because Boy has a big head.
This is just unbearable. It's just... I've spent like 13, 14 hours with Boy, and they're just trashing all of it in less than 45 minutes. And this went on for like an hour and a half of gameplay time of Boy having a big head.
Boy's going to get his head smacked in if he's not careful.
Yeah, Boy is like, he changes his things like, okay, I got this. I got your back. I think my arrow can shoot up there too. Whatever. Yeah.
Ooh, it's the angst season.
It's not even angst, it's just haughty whatever. Like, it's such a small problem to him. It's worse than angst. It's just, I cannot stand this type of character. Period. I especially can't stand it with little kids.
Well, I mean, as I said, this little kid's dad is Kratos. Like, he's going to get bent over Kratos' knee. That's what's going to happen.
You're not careful, he's going to get bent over Kratos' axe.
If you get a spanking from Kratos, you probably don't recover for several weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, we're going long on time. So that is
Way
my
long.
appraisal of. Yeah, I've been going for 40 minutes, and before this went at least an hour and a half. So yeah, that is my State of the Union with video games that y'all might be interested in, and that's God of War and my official breakdown of it. I'll probably do a little bit more when I finally beat it, but not much more. So yeah, there's not much more to talk about with it. I'll probably talk about bonus bosses and stuff then, but we'll save that for when I make more progress. I did accidentally wander into one, and it kicked my butt. That Valkyrie was not nice. She one-shot me, even on difficulty 3 of 5.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. So yeah, boobies and boy.
Boobies and boy.
Butts. Boobies, butts, and boy.
Boy!
And that is my week.
Boy.
Right.
Boy.
We are going to have to either blast through the news really, really quickly or put it all off for next week.
Let's cover some of it.
What's the news bucket?
All right. Let me see.
So, follow it from last week, because this is probably best to do the week following.
Yes.
Manga Gamer, one of the bigger visual novel publishers, who I've actually said I've been happy they exist because they have got some not adult visual novels that I've wanted to see over like the Higurashi series. So they are not strictly speaking adult visual novels.
They just sell piles and piles of adult visual novels.
Yeah, they do have. There are some gems in the anime boobies. But yeah, they have partnered with Good Old Games.
Yes.
So there will be a platform for most of the VNs being taken off Steam because Manga Gamer pretty much captures everybody.
You
and
say
publishes them.
You say there will be. Within 24 hours of that announcement, it's all on GOG.
Yeah.
It took them that long to do it. It was just bang, done.
Yeah. So Good Old Games approached them, was like, you want your stuff on our platform? They're like, heck yeah.
Okay.
We just broke our contract. We're done. So yeah, that's the thing that's happened.
Yes, indeed.
So they are still available, and Good Old Games in general has been a platform I appreciate. I hope they can curate some of the absolute garbage. I am less of two minds about this than Volocel is, but I do hope that they do curate some of the just absolute,
they do.
Just for titillation games. I would be okay with those taking a hike.
Yeah.
But I think there is merit to games that have some sexual themes in them. Like, but do not have them as
the thing.
focus.
You're not describing any games that actually exist, though. None of these games have sexual themes in them.
Yeah, I do not. I haven't looked at the games specifically that are being targeted. So, but yeah, well, I did, but I haven't looked at them in
This
depth.
is not about themes at all.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but yeah, I do still think Steam is in the wrong for acting like terrible business people.
As
They're
much
not
as I-
being-
As much as I hate having games split across multiple platforms, yeah, I don't mind this.
Yeah.
Like I've been a member with GOG for quite some time, and I've always appreciated their stuff and their sales, where they more often than not just give out a free game.
Yeah, Good Old Games is good. And I'm glad that there is a home for this stuff in case stuff like G Senju Mao gets targeted or Higurashi gets targeted or stuff like that. I'm glad it has another home to go to. Because those are games people should still play.
This game has
And
crashed again.
We don't know how, since we don't know how hard Steam's going in on this, and if they might just target the entire genre for all we know. We don't have a...
From what I've heard, that they slammed the brakes on in a manner which suggests that there was somebody who did not know it was happening until the news had gone wild.
So I think
This wasn't like a diplomatic two-step. This was like you could hear the screeching.
abort.
Everybody applied the brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I heard about the sort of the contacts between Steam and between people who had their games pulled, it was basically they were freezing everything that was happening. So it sounds to me like they've got some internal procedural which had gone hog wild. Somebody had decided to take a free hand with something they shouldn't have, and they are going to try and untangle the mess.
Yeah, if you're going to do this kind of thing, you need to do it from the front end of these deals with signing on people, not the back end while, 2 months after you've just signed a deal with them. That's what really put me off of Steam's side in this.
Yeah.
This needs to be, as a moral, ethical business practice, you need to do this at the front. Not after the fact. Not after you've signed paperwork. You're technically allowed to, great, but that's not good business.
Kind of a dick move.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah. So that's our follow-up there. I didn't really give my opinion on it last week.
Yeah, a lot of it was just let's wait and see on it, because there was just not a whole lot of concrete information at that point.
I frankly still don't think it will stick.
I don't think it will.
stick.
No, it's either someone getting a big head or some automated process that's just going well out of hand.
Yeah, it's just so common sense, bad business practice that there's no way it could stick. That's a good way to get yourself some bad rap real fast.
Yep. Okay. Next one is a game I'm actually a little bit hype about, which has just been announced, which is Age of Wonders, except this time it's in space.
Yeah, this is all you. Go for it.
All right. So Age of Wonders is a turn-based RPG in the style of Heroes of Might and Magic. You've got your big map and all these various nodes and towns and things on it, and you pick up a hero, build up an army, and go and stomp on people's faces. Age of Wonders 3 is on Steam. It's cheap, and it's also on GOG, by the way. Also cheap over there. And it's just good fun. It's not particularly balanced. Like, if you roll up a halfling as your leader, you're doomed for failure. Just
The
don't do that.
Halflings were like super OP in one of the previous ones. I think.
Yeah, it's because of the way I think luck worked. Like they are super duper lucky, which means they're going to go. They're going to do bonus damage almost every turn.
Speaking of which, stack luck in God of War. It gets you more money and experience.
Yeah. So yeah, Halflings still have that super lucky streak, but they're also like squish, really, really squish.
See,
So
Age of
yeah,
Wonders was not a series I ever even touched.
It
I
is
was
one-
vaguely aware of it.
I grew up with Heroes of Might and Magic and had a lot of good times with 2 and 4, I believe, and then after that it kind of went.
Oh, is that the series?
I
this
think
is
4 was
coming from?
awful. 4 was appalling. 4 was a horrible portrayal of everything that Heroes of Might and Magic was.
Yeah, I'm expecting some rose tinted giggles. Yes, on my part there.
Oh, okay then. I thought
It
this
was-
was a
and it was-
separate IP.
Artistically hideous,
It was pretty ugly. Yes.
especially considering the gorgeous town artwork that 3 had. And then to go to 4, where it's just a blank plain with a couple of buildings plotted on it.
And you upgrade. Yes, unlike the previous games where you upgrade your town and it slowly becomes this massive thing. It's just kind of still a blank plain with buildings on it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm actually quite excited for this. It's Age of Wonders Planetfall. So it's basically that sort of game in space. That's about all we know about it at this point, though. So we'll see.
The unit models look okay from the trailer I'm looking at.
Yeah. I'm
Looks
expecting multiple races and all that sort of goodness. Are we
I
going to
thought Age of Wonders was the IP, so I didn't have a clue what this was.
Yeah, Age of Wonders is the IP.
Well, I did not know that
It's a
it
franchise.
came.
Franchise,
I
rather.
didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks almost completely different, mostly because of the sci-fi skin over it rather than a fantasy one. But yeah, it still looks recognizable. So yeah, we shall see. I'm actually quite optimistic about this one, and Paradox Interactive has actually been doing some decent things lately.
But I won't be able to conquer my neighbours using plague rats anymore.
No, but you might be able to do it with space rats. Because space.
Bye.
It's in space. Everything is better because it's in space. Next article.
Even Space Australia.
Especially
We
Space
can
Australia.
say-
Because Space
can
Australia doesn't censor games. Tangent.
Sure about that.
That's a good segue. We'll do that one.
Yes.
We'll save the other one I took out next.
So, our wrinkled, old, useless people over in the Australian Classification Board have refused classification for We Happy Few because drugs.
Despite the fact that the game is about the abuse of them.
The abuse of them, the how using drugs as a mind control device is a bad thing, and how blindly following authority is also a bad thing.
And
So-
about how terrible a domineering nanny state is.
Yes, ironically enough.
That's
So-
probably the real reason it got the declassification.
Because the nanny state is bad. We already knew that. Also, creepy policemen. Apparently, attacking anything that resembles a policeman is also a taboo. Because reasons. Once again, I'm going to say it, we have an R rating. We fought long and hard to get an R rating. I think we've had maybe one game classified under R rating, and that's it. Come to think of it, actually, let me have a look. So yeah, we're waiting.
We're going to need
Currently
months of
waiting.
picketing
Oh.
outside your Congress's office. to
It took
get these
years.
people to stop
It took years to get it.
Like,
So did you get like the South Park game, for instance?
Censored, yes. Remember, it was
What's left if you censor the South Park game?
Crying Koalas. That's what they censored it with.
Didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. List of banned games in Australia. Yeah, that's not right. That's not what I was looking for. Let me see. I can't actually find a list of R-rated games in Australia. Probably because there's none.
There's not enough to make anything you would call a list. Maybe a sentence.
Yes. It's a single bullet point. Let me see. No. There's a lot of games that get overturned. Here we go. So, current present ratings. R-rated is Stick of Truth. And it's still got the censorship in the way, by the way. State of Decay. Because drugs, I guess. I'm assuming they actually meaning medicinal use, by the way. It's also something that will get a game censored. Mortal Kombat 2011 because...
Do people not use medicine in Australia? Is that just not a thing? Do you people just die instead?
I guess. Outlast 2, Left 4 Dead 2, also still censored, by the way. So yeah, that's 6 games? 5-6 games? I'm just seeing if I missed any. 1, 2, 3... No, 5 games. That's it. All of which are still censored under the R rating. At least if we get... I'd say we could just wait for the people on the classification board to retire, but I think at this point they're about 130 years old and not going anywhere. Ugh.
Well, the thing is that when a person on the ratings board gets like to 110 years old and has to employ a replacement, they'll just pick somebody who's like 109 years old.
Sadly, yes.
Y'all need to, like, fix your government.
It's so dumb.
Every 3 or 4 generations, you should probably have a revolution in your country just to be safe.
But at this point, they're just way too much fun to mock.
But you don't have video games.
We do not have video games. That's right.
This is a major flaw.
So I have We Happy Few in my Steam library at the moment. And the developer is appealing the decision. We shall see what happens on that. Let me just quickly check if they've updated in the last 4 hours. I don't think they have.
And do you have any like television in Australia?
Not
like,
even more.
How come TV shows don't get swatted by all of this?
TV shows and movies are still afforded a much broader range of classifications. It's only video games this applies to. I don't know.
Like, our video games classification system and our movies classification system is the same system.
It should be the same for here, and it is on paper. It is the same, but they seem to have a lot stricter restrictions on video games. So, yeah. All right, next.
I just mentioned this because I thought it was funny, and it's going to result in deserved suffering. Apparently, the upcoming COD Blops game is going to abandon having a single player campaign entirely in favor of being a battle royale game.
Oh, they want to embrace failure, do they?
I guess.
Why would you do this?
COD Blops. They are nothing if not cash-ins. Like, that's what they do. They cash in. It's like their whole thing in life is to cash in as quickly and as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, we haven't seen any, like, battle royale games that try to jump on the bandwagon and get completely crushed or anything. Like, you know, like a game made by, say, Cliffy B, for instance, that resulted in the complete closure of his studio and the loss of work by all of the people working there, or anything like that. You know, that sort of stuff just doesn't happen.
Yes. I don't know why he will keep developing the Battle Royale. That fight is lost. It's finished.
Well, even if it's not, it should be clear that it's super, super volatile and dangerous to go down that road at this point.
Yeah. Oh, here we are. Sorry, just to quickly swing back to the last article. It looks like Compulsion Games is offering refunds to those who have purchased We Happy Few in Australia. I'm not going to, though. And see what happens. So, yeah, just a quick update on that one. Oh, dear. So, yeah, Battle Royale, we've said it before, it's just... Why? Why?
I just find it amusing that like COD Blops is doing it. It's
Yeah.
like the franchise isn't shameful enough.
Aren't they releasing on Battle.net as well?
I don't.
I think I saw a mention of that somewhere.
That sounds kind of weird.
It does,
Weird
doesn't
enough
it?
that they might actually do it, but
Oh boy. All right.
he's not saying anything.
I know. Where has he gone?
I'm here. I'm here. No, I'm here. I'm zoning out a little bit. I'm tired. I had to lay sod today.
Oh, sod. All right, we should probably start wrapping up then.
Yep, I'll save the little announcement I had for last week because I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that cares about it.
Okay.
So yeah. Once again, our thoughts and prayers are with the Total Biscuits family, and thanks, dude. You did pretty good. You made a station that made our station, and you're the reason we know each other.
Yeah.
So, if you take it back far enough, you're one of the bigger blocks that pointed us in this direction.
Mm.
So, shout-outs to you. And you had a very productive life, sir.
Yes.
Let's see. Closing comments go.
COD Blops is on Battle.net.
That's super weird.
That is extremely strange. But yeah. All right. I guess that's why.
The second you said COD Blops, I just completely zoned out.
I know, that's...
down.
Oh no, Call of Duty. No, I'm off.
I have zero opinions.
Blah. Oh dear.
But yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that's it then.
I think that's
If
that's
we're
about
umming.
it. Yeah. Email topic of the week is whatever you want.
As always.
See. Sayonara. Bye bye.